Well, I'm Chris Ensing. I work for City of Burnaby. I'm a fisheries habitat officer. Burnaby's part in the project is really all about land. We own parts of the land that are involved in this project, along with Metro Vancouver, private land ownership, BC Hydro, and there's other rights of ways like Kingdom Oregon that go through the site. So our particular involvement in the project is really as a landowner and a supporter to the Stoney Creek Streamkeepers wanting to do this project.
I'm James. I'm currently the secretary of the Stoney Creek Environment Committee. I've been with the group since 2003 when I first found out about the Great Salmon Send-Off. My background is as an exploration geophysicist for an American oil company, and after I took retirement in 1999, I spent 15 years or so doing private computer consulting. I've been interested in the creek, partly because of my involvement with the original Great Salmon Send-Off, but also my grandchildren were going to Stoney Creek Community School.
Yeah, there's lots of rights of ways that go through the Stoney Creek watershed. Stoney Creek extends from the mountain and flows right down to the Brunette River. And across all those rights of ways, the Stoney Creek Environmental Working Group was developed by Jennifer Atchison and a number of other concerned people that wanted to have all of those players at the table. So we've been working together with the Stoney Creek Environmental Working Group as part of that group for many years, and generally come together on common issues, or issues that bring both the streamkeepers and the city together, and the other players. So whether it's trails, impacts on creeks, whether it's dumping at a location or at many locations in the watershed, where there's littering, where there's graffiti, all of those issues, the city has a part to play. So we'll get the calls, we'll get the complaints, and then we'll also sit down at the table if there's some planning exercise to do that's more of a long-term thing that we can do together. So we try to work with them, recognizing that they're doing this on volunteer time, and we're getting paid and working from a more structural, point of view, and we have limitations as well for things that we can do.
This project we call the Habitat Improvement Project, and it began probably about 3 or 4 years ago with discussions with Fisheries and Oceans, because in this area of the creek, which is just south of the intersection of Beaverbrook Drive and Beaverbrook Crescent, the creek had eroded to this sandstone bedrock and was sort of a long sluice-like part of the creek. And while it didn't prevent the energetic coho from coming up, it did slow down some of the chum. And so we thought that if we could put in some weirs or these rock riffles to make some riffle and pool habitat that would make resting places on that long slope, that it would make it easier for the fish to get up. At the same time, it allows us to put spawning gravel behind the piles of rocks and provide additional spawning areas in the creek. It was discussed at the Stoney Creek Environmental Working Group several times, trying to get people involved to see what sort of support there was. The Stoney Creek Group put together a funding proposal to the Pacific Salmon Foundation. We asked for $16,000 from the Community Salmon Program. We had $10,000 that was given as a prize to Jennifer Atchison for her work on the stream. So that made $26,000 of hard cash, and then we got lots of donated materials and time from many of the participants. To begin the project, they welded together 70 meters of 8-inch polythene pipe. They dragged it down the creek, and right at where you see that ripple there, they put in some a sandbag dam to divert the water around this area that they worked in. They had two pre-fisheries people come and make sure that there were no fish, no fry left in the area that they were working in, and they diverted the water all the way down to the third rock here, which you'll see later. Then they did some excavating in the creek to make some grooves in the bedrock to hold these large boulders in place. And then they delivered, I'm guessing, 6 truckloads of boulders that were of this half to 2 meter size to place in the area. They had a bobcat that ran the boulders from the road down here, and then whatever you call that, big diggers to pick them up and place them.
Excavator.
Excavator.
Yeah.
Jim, the operator of that excavator, was absolutely amazing in terms of his ability to, you could almost see it was an extension of his hand as he'd pick something up and place it and roll it over and get it just in the right spot. And then once those rocks were in place, they got some of this gravel from Coquitlam and spread it out all the way along behind each of the weirs to provide the pool and the possible spawning habitat. The next step here is to wait till the fall and watch and see how the salmon manage to navigate. Well, there is one thing that the Stoney Creek group has committed to do, and will be working on it for BC Rivers Day, and that's a major replanting of the area that's been disturbed by the machines. Our group did a plant rescue earlier this month and has set aside some of the plants that were in the areas where the machines were accessing the creek, and so we'll have a fairly major replanting project on September the 29th. So if you're around, come out and help.
The way the project was initiated was over this watercourse's history. The substrates were worn down to such a point where it was absolute bedrock. So it was difficult for the fish to navigate, and that's why they identified this site as a place that would really do with some enhancement. So build up the weirs and then backflow with more gravels so that fish can navigate better. So rock that they're using is a combination of larger cobbles and smaller gravel, and then we get right down to the fine sands. And it's important to have this kind of a mix so that all the invertebrates can use this area as well as the fish that are in the stream. We also have, so we've got this dry bar here that looks like when you get a big rain event, we're going to have a lot of dirty water downstream, and we probably will have a flush of dirty water. But it's important to have a low flow channel when we have sunny weather like this and it's dry, so that there's a concentration of flow. And once the rain does come and we'll get the higher water, it'll flush through here and everything's going to settle down and find its place. So that's kind of just how they've built it. And they've also used, you'll notice, rounded, huge rocks. The city and many cities, engineers typically like the angular rock, which we call riprap. And typically, if you see a creek design, it'll have all this angular rock because it fits nicely together. And if anybody walks over it, it's pretty tight, so it won't move. So it's a little more safe that way too. But so they like to stay away from the rounded rock because they think it's going to move. And they may have, I'm not an engineer, they may have evidence that it moves. But fisheries really likes the rounded stuff. It's more natural. The way it flows and the way the fish navigate through the rounded rock is a much more natural sort of way to transfer, to navigate the watercourse. So that's another thing you'll notice here. They've tried to mirror nature by the way they've built it.
Well, this is very much an urban area. It's been disturbed several times over its history. The kind of plants that we want to put back are the native salmon berries, which provide food for the birds in here. We want to take out the ivy. We want to take out the blackberry where we can. We've got a few, not right here, but down a bit, we've got some Japanese knotweed, which is starting to invade the creek. But essentially all we're going to do in the replanting is to put back the plants that we took away. We're not going to put any big trees necessarily, but we'll restore some of the ferns and some of the smaller vine maples and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so to again replicate what is naturally in this area, and that provides shade for the watercourse, which makes it cool, and fish like the cooler temperatures. And the leaf litter going into the creek also, when it breaks down, it provides food and nutrients for the fish and the invertebrates that are in the watercourse. So it's all part of the cycle of an ecosystem growing up through the years and over the seasons, all the different things that it gives back to the watercourse and that it gets from the watercourse in uptake of nutrients from the watercourse as well.
The path that we took to get down here is one that's a fairly public path, and BC Hydro has donated 75 kilograms of grass seed to plant along that area, so that will help reduce the amount of erosion that might take place if we just left it there like this.
So another point that I'll mention is that what they've done to make this construction work, they're working with an existing watercourse with an existing forest, which is beautiful, and they've done their best to reduce the number of access points to here. So they're not destroying a lot of vegetation. They've got one path here that came in to build this weir. They've got another path up there that built that weir, and then another one further down. So it's it's a great way to rehabilitate a watercourse with as little intact as possible.
They were really careful to make sure they came between the big trees.
Yeah.
The Pacific Streamkeepers Federation has a program that they developed along with Fisheries and Oceans to provide training for monitoring and improving the creeks. So once every 2 or 3 months there's a training session that you get on the Pacific Streamkeepers website. So they have modules on actually mapping the ponds and riffles, which indicates how the slope of the creek. They do training on measuring identifying and counting the invertebrates that are there. Fish trapping of the juveniles for the presence or absence of the fish. The counting of returning spawners in the fall. All those processes that you go through. They have some sessions on water quality, but Stoney Creek probably went beyond that with our resident water quality expert, Vladimir Subichev. Vladimir, probably 6 or 7 years ago, started taking routine measurements of water, both in Stoney Creek and other creeks on the mountain. Yeah, I think the community involvement is important because the community can be the eyes and the ears, monitoring on the ground for things that are important to them, and pass that on to the organizations that can do something about it.
Yeah, I think community is really important. I mean, I think it's important wherever you live to feel like you're a part of your physical environment. And wherever you find a patch of green or blue sky or whatever it is, I think it's important that we all recognize that fresh air, clean water, and just having the peace and quiet and tranquility of an area like this is really important. And for people to get in touch with that in their own neighborhood, I think is a really positive thing. I mean, I would echo what Alan says as well in terms of being the eyes and the ears for what's going on here and letting the city know, because we don't have time in our days to go out to all the creeks and green spaces to see how things are. So if we get a phone call, we can respond.
And if you want a good example of the community interest in nature in the creek, come out to the Great Salmon Send-Off next May at the Stoney Creek Community School, where you'll see 1,000 or so people come out to put fry or smolts into the creek. The Stoney Creek Environmental Committee consists primarily of old fogies like me, and we're really deeply in need of younger folks to come out and help with some of the projects. We need help with the stream monitoring, counting spawners in the fall. We need help with fish trapping. We have opportunities for doing bird watching, invertebrate counting, mapping projects, all kinds of interesting things to do. We like to think of our group as the premier citizen science group of Burnaby. So come and join us.